What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Ian's Life. It's another day on the Rockhopper. I am about to drop some new metal on my bench over here and build a bulkhead for the fuselage. We've got the tail feathers set aside for the moment being back there behind my head. Those are going to be coming back onto the bench a little bit later, but first I gotta build this so my father can get out in the cave and continue on the fuselage. Stay tuned. Both the tail feathers and the fuselage are coming along nicely, but we do need to do some work on the bench here for the fuselage for a minute. So I'm going to clean these tail feathers up and start building the aft bulkhead that we need to make over here to put into the airplane. Before I get started, let me show you what we're up to. I've printed out a couple sets of plans here. This is just a simple diagram showing me a structure. I've actually got another one over here. This one center lines, this one takes into account the tubing size, but we're going to be building that over here. So what is that? Let me show you. We're having a bit of an issue with the airplane where this section up here has to be connected to stuff back here before the cripple structure that we've put in temporarily can go out. For that to happen, we have to figure out some points in space. Now remember, this is of course higher, that much you can see because we've done it, but this right here, our old seat back section, I'll come around here, that is also coming back to about here. So there's a point in space, because this, you may not be aware of this if you don't know avets, but they're kind of diamond shaped. They come in and out here. So there's a point somewhere out here in space we have to identify. So we've been debating how we're going to do that. And the solution we came up with was to build the equivalent to the piece that's now partially cut out here, down, over, up, across. We're going to build the new one of those back over on the bench inside so that we can place that in here, because that sits perfectly straight up and down, which makes it pretty easy to locate. And that'll give us our outer points somewheres out here, which will then we can build up from to the stuff that we're going to build up here. So let me show you what we've got going on here. I've gone ahead and transferred my plans onto my temporary bench top that I have here. I haven't talked about this before, but this is just a little sacrificial piece that's screwed down to a very flat bench I have below so I can make very flat parts. Got a piece of angle clamped here, that's my base, and then I've taken my brad nailer and gone ahead and nailed these little blocks in. You probably saw these as I was doing the firewall. They're just some little quick cut-off pieces that I use to show the edge of things. You can see the lines I've drawn on there. Those are just outside of these. So now I can go ahead and drop tubes in place and start turning that into metal. So now we've got a pretty good chunk of this former in place. You can kind of see what I've got going here. I've placed some blocks inside to capture these. We've mitered all the corners here, and I've got my welding clamp set up. We're just about to do some welds on these bottom corners, just tacks for now. This top section, that is going to be the top bar, but it's not in there yet, and there's a method to my madness here. If you look at the plans, you'll see that we've got two diagonals coming in here. And the way that those are cut, I don't think I can actually get, because of the curves right here, I could get one of them in with this in place, but I couldn't get the other. So in thinking about it, I think the thing to do is going to be to go ahead and make those while I can slide this bar in and out. As a matter of fact, I'm probably going to have to take these top blocks out so that that bar can slide in and out at the top. But that way I can get those diagonals in there and then go ahead and weld that top bar. And this piece is going to be done, well, it'll be tacked at that point. We can pull it loose and finish weld it, get it out on the airplane. I know we've showed this on camera a couple times, but I've never explained what we're doing. This is our tube mitering jig. Now, this is my mill drill here. Beat up old thing, but it works. This is just a little quickie way of going ahead and cutting arcs with this end mill here into tube so that where it fits up into other tubes actually has an arc on it. It usually ends up just being a starting point and we have to do a little more work on it afterwards, but it's a pretty good starting point. It is possible to do this without these tools if you're using this as kind of a inspiration to do this yourself. I know a mill is a bit of an extravagance. It took me a lot of years before I got even this cheap one. And yes, machinists, I know I have an end mill chucked into a chuck and not into a taper. It's just a little easier and quicker for what we're doing right now since we're not doing any heavy operations. So anyway, let's go ahead and get this sucker cut. And that right there makes for pretty nice double fish mouth. You can see I got a little bit of a chunk in there I'm gonna have to clean up on the inside. That's just flashing, but that really helps us get a nice starting point for doing these, especially these double intersected joints. And that's the fuselage former complete. I'm reasonably happy with this. I was fighting my welder a little bit, to be honest. A couple of these welds didn't just acted up. Thankfully, they're all good and strong. A few of them are a little on the gorilla side appearance-wise, but I know I got the good penetration in there in the end, so all's well that ends well. Also, there's going to be more welding to do on this anyway in a few critical spots in the corners here and here where it's welded into the airplane, and up here where the rest of the structure is heading up from it. So those sections are going to get gone over anyway. So I'm going to go drop this thing out in the cave, get it going out there, and get back onto the tail feathers. And now we have this bulkhead tacked in place. I've got 2 weld beads on here on either side holding it. Now I can actually point out finally the important bit, which is we now have this point out in space defined, which allows us to come up and build the rest of our structure up here off of a known point. Now we are going to add first a reinforcement that is part of the design coming from here. Boy, my camera's not quite long enough. Let's see if I can get this in frame. I'm going to come from about here down and in. There's a reinforcement piece that makes the back of the door right there. We need to put that in place just to keep this from shifting on us if we bump it or something like that. But once we have that in place, then we can start building up from there. Boy, I'm really pumped with how this is coming together. You can really start to see how our truss right here is extending back now, and it's going to do the same thing it did originally, where it had that 45 down or 30 down, whatever it is. That's now going to happen there to our new rear area right here, which is going to bring our door most of the way back with another little triangle right there, establishing the new rear section. This is really fun to see. It doesn't show up quite as well on camera as it does in person, but visually, it's really starting to come together. I'm going to keep on working tonight and get just a little more done before we call it a day. Yeah, that's not what happened. I went in for the night, called it a day, and went back out for work later. So what happens after this is for another video, but for now I'm calling it. We've got another video following up this one in short order. I'm already working on that. I've also got some more flying coming to you soon. Just got to do some editing on a few videos there. But that's all for the future. So until next time, like, subscribe. I'll see you on the next one.